Hey everyone, Eric here from WDIM News. Thank you very much for joining me. This is the third week of my brand new podcast for 2023. Here I talk about movie and series news, mainly in the science fiction genre, but in other genres as well. This week I have a lot of stuff to talk about. Like usual, I'll start out with some stuff about Star Trek, mainly Star Trek Picard. There will be another trailer for the third season, and I'll let you know when that's going to come out. I also want to talk about 5 theories that have to do with the third season of Picard. Some of them pretty crazy, some of them will almost definitely happen. So I want to talk about those and hear what you have to say. And then I want to talk about a brand new science fiction intellectual property named Rebel Moon. Some of you may have heard of it. It's directed by Zack Snyder. It started out as a Star Wars film pitch that was killed and then revived as a brand new entity that's coming out in about a year on Netflix. Speaking of Netflix, I want to talk about Cobra Kai. It will be ending after its upcoming 6th season. The last 4 seasons have been shown on Netflix. It's one of my favorite series, and I definitely want to talk about that. Also, in the last week, a new trailer for the 3rd season of The Mandalorian was released, and I think it looks really good. I think the 3rd season might be the best season so far. I have some theories about where it's going, and if I'm right, it's going to be really exciting. And then finally, I want to talk about The Last of Us. I record these podcasts on Sunday morning, so by the time you're listening to this, the 2nd episode of The Last of Us would have already been released. But I want to talk about the 1st episode, what I felt about it, and how I feel it's going to go in the future. So, first of all, let's talk about Star Trek, and specifically Star Trek Picard. Now, the big news from the last week was, once again, Terry Matalas talking on Twitter and answering fans' questions and things of that nature. And he had a few fans ask him if we will see another trailer for the 3rd and final season of Picard. And he didn't come out and say it, but he insinuated that we will get one more trailer and it will be released January 29th during the AFC title game. Those of you that aren't in the United States or don't follow American football, that's a big football game, and it will be on the streaming service Paramount Plus. So it makes a lot of sense for the trailer to debut during that game, since the series will also be shown on Paramount Plus. So far, the trailers for Star Trek Picard, I think, have given away quite a lot, but you have to realize they're trying to round up stories for all these characters. So I think there will be a lot in the 3rd season of Picard, because if Terry Matalas really wants to do a final send-off, it can't just be a crew send-off. He's got to spend some time on each of these characters and give them, their just. So I think it's going to be a very busy season. So I think that the final trailer for season 3 could even give us some more hints of some crazy stuff that we'll see. 1 or 2 of those things might be talked about here pretty quick in my my theories for season 3. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. I do breakdowns of every Star Trek trailer, so once this is released, I will get right on the computer and get a breakdown as soon as I can out to you, so make sure you're subscribed and you hit the bell so you know right when that comes out. Now, with the 3rd season of Picard less than a month away, there have been a lot of theories about stuff that we will see in that final season. Some of these have been started from cast members themselves, some of them from fan sites and things like that. So I wanted to go over 5 of them that I keep seeing pop up. But let me know in the comments if you think any of these are true, if you think all of them are true, and which ones you're most excited about. So the first theory I want to talk about is that Tasha Yar will return at some point. This comes from the actress who played Tasha Yar, Denise Crosby. Of course, the character Tasha Yar debuted in the series premiere, Encounter at Farpoint, but was killed off later in the 1st season in the episode Skin of Evil. She returned once in the episode Yesterday's Enterprise. I think she might have returned briefly in another episode as Tasha Yar when Data was looking at his hologram of her. But then she returned as another character altogether, Sela, who was the daughter of Tasha Yar and a Romulan commander. I really liked Sela. She was a big part of the Star Trek Online game. She's a major antagonist there. I would rather see Sela return, honestly, than Tasha Yar, because if Tasha Yar does return at some point, there can really only be 2 ways it happens. One, a flashback, and the other would be a hologram. Well, I guess a third way could be that she never died in the first place, but I don't think that that would go very well with the fans. So I think that we can cancel out that they're going to say Tasha Yar was alive the whole time. Unless, now, as I said, Sela was the daughter of Tasha Yar and a Romulan commander after Tasha Yar went back in time with the crew of the Enterprise C during the episode Yesterday's Enterprise. So maybe we will see a version of that version of Tasha Yar, Sela's mother, who I don't know how old she would be. I can't do the math in my head right now. She would be in her hundreds, but of course, there are ways in the future for people to live longer. So maybe we will see that version of Tasha Yar. But let me know, do you think we will see Tasha Yar, and how do you think we will see her? Now we just talked about bringing a character back. This is the antithesis of that. The next theory is that we will see an original cast member die during the last season of Picard. This theory comes from Terry Matalas himself, who has said on Twitter, I believe, that not all cast members are safe this season. So definitely insinuating that we will see someone pass away. I've mentioned on this channel before that I believe that character will be Deanna Troy. In one of the trailers for the third season, you can see Deanna Troy looking at the camera, and there's a big red ball or a big red light, something that's scaring her. From the look on her face, she looks absolutely frightened. And I believe she might be on a ship that is destroyed. I know that they said that we will see two versions of the Enterprise. We will see the Enterprise F and we will see the Enterprise D. We won't see the Enterprise E. Maybe she will be on the Enterprise F when it is destroyed, because I think that ship will be destroyed too. Mainly because it was designed in the online game, so it's not even designed for the show. So I think that it's kind of a throwaway, and they're one of the main moments of the third season is that ship's going to get destroyed. My reasons for Deanna Troy, besides seeing that in the trailer, is that the actress who plays her, Marina Sirtis, has retired. So giving the character a proper send-off like this, in case these actors will go on to do other things, we know that this actress in particular does not want to go on. She wants to retire. So killing off the character in a meaningful way, I think is a good way to give her character, the proper credence. I think her death could also give Riker an edge. I know that Jonathan Frakes has always said that he wanted to play Riker with more of an edge. He always saw him as like more of a original series era style character. So maybe we'll see that. But let me know in the comments, do you think Deanna Troy will be the one that's killed this season? And if not, who do you think could be killed? Do you think it could be Crusher, Dr. Crusher, who we're going to talk about next? Who do you think it could be? The next theory is a little more positive than the last one. The last one was kind of a bummer. Dr. Beverly Crusher and Jean-Luc Picard will end up together romantically. This stems from both the actress who plays Dr. Crusher, Gates McFadden, as well as showrunner Terry Matalas, stating that not only does Dr. Crusher have a very big arc in the third season, but that her character gets closer to Picard than we've ever seen before. As I mentioned briefly before, this season of Picard is supposed to be a proper send-off for the entire cast, and it would be nice to show two main characters getting together. We first kind of saw their feelings for each other. I think maybe even in the first episode together, you can kind of notice there's something between those two characters. But really, in the episode The Naked Now, I believe, I don't know if I'm saying it. If I'm one of The Naked Time, I believe, was the original series episode, and Naked Now was the continuation of that, or maybe I've got them flipped around. But anyway, in that episode, you can definitely pick up the sexual tension between those two characters. You see it a few more times throughout the series, but really it's kind of died down because Jean-Luc Picard is such a dutiful captain. I could not see him fraternizing with one of his crew. You couldn't have that relationship and still have Picard be Picard. So now that they're not in that dynamic, it makes a lot of sense for Picard and Dr. Crusher to get together. So we'll see. I think that this will happen. I think that this would be a good amount of fan service, which we will be getting a lot of fan service in this season. But I think this would be good fan service because I think it would service the plot, especially if Picard and others are searching for Dr. Crusher. That may show Jean-Luc how much more he cares about her than he ever realized. And that could show her by his actions how much he cares for her. It's a very romantic kind of plot line, for those two characters that we didn't really see that much. Picard had a couple of flings, with Vash and a couple others, but he was no Captain Kirk, so to speak. So we'll see what happens. But I think that like the first two theories, I think that this one will come true as well. But let me know in the comments. Would you like to see Dr. Crusher and Picard get together? The next one I want to talk about is that Picard will have a son. We'll find out that he has a son in this third season. This came out, I can't remember who originally came out with this rumor, but this is at least a year old. I think this is more of an internet rumor, but in one of the trailers, an actor named Thomas Dekker appears briefly. Now, if you're not familiar with Thomas Dekker, he's been in a few things. He was in the Sarah Connor Chronicles. He was in Heroes. He's been in a few other things as well. But one of the first things he was ever in when he was like 4 or 6 years old, or maybe a little older, he was one of Picard's children in the Nexus scene in the film Star Trek Generations. I think he's the youngest one. And then, like I said, he appears in the trailer again. I mean, it could be a coincidence. We've seen, even on the series Picard last season, they had an actor who played a character, and then originally, like years ago, he played a character also on Voyager, and it was the same actor. He's just playing two different characters, and there's a little insinuation that maybe there was a relation there from the one in the past to the one that we saw on Voyager, but it was a different character altogether. So maybe Thomas Dekker is playing a different character, but we could see Picard with a son. I mean, this wouldn't be the first time, of course, that Star Trek did this. They did this in Wrath of Khan. Kirk found out that he had a son. Sisko, of course, had a son, but he knew he had a son. I mean, that wasn't a surprise to him. We know that we will see more family members of the original cast because LaForge will have 2 daughters this season, one of whom serves, I think, on the Titan. The other one is his daughter in real life. We know that we're going to see, those family members. We know that Riker and Troy have a daughter. So maybe we'll learn that Picard also has a son. And actually, this theory actually kind of goes with my next theory a little bit too, which is that there will be a season 4. Now, we've been told time and time again that there will only be 3 seasons of Picard. But now, in the last year, there's been more and more hints that there will be a continuation. Now, in my opinion, I don't believe that there will be a season 4 per se, but I do believe there's a very good chance that many of these characters will continue on to other things. There's a specific quote, it's over a year old, I think it was on comicbook.com, where Terry Matalas stated that the season 3 ends on a hopeful note, and that it passes the baton to a younger generation. Now, I just said we could see Picards Son in this season. We know that LaForge has 2 daughters, one of whom already serves in Starfleet. Riker and Troy's daughter has been introduced in the first season. So will this lead to like the next generation? I don't know how that would work. They would have to, that's too much alliteration there, but I don't know how that, but we could see a new younger generation start to coalesce in this final season of Picard. So I don't think that we will see a season 4 of Picard, but I think there's a very good chance that many of these characters will appear again, whether it be on a brand new series, in a movie, or something of this nature. I think that this will not be the last we see of these cast members. But let me know in the comments, do you think that we will see Picards Son? Do you think that we will continue to see these characters? I know that Seven, her character, is brought up a lot as possibly, joining a new show. Jonathan Frakes is a director, so he's always behind the scenes. So having him show up again is always a possibility. He's already appeared on Lower Decks. Let me know, what do you think lies in store for the future of these characters? And now finally, as like a sixth theory, I guess a bonus theory that we could just make up right here, right now. Who would be your dream cameo to appear at some point this season. Star Trek has been pretty good with Star Trek Picard has been pretty good with the cameos. We got Wesley last season, and we got the reference to Khan. I think, like I said, this is going to be a busy season. I don't think that we've seen everything, even though we've seen a lot in the trailers. There's been a lot of rumors that there's ties to Deep Space Nine in this third season of Picard, which leaves the door open for someone like Sisko to come back. Who, if we're talking about dream appearances, that would be mine. I think there's a 99% chance that won't happen, unfortunately. But I would love to see Avery Brooks return as Captain Benjamin Sisko. He has returned in the comic books, so there's a way for him to get brought back. Miles O'Brien is another character that seemingly has been forgotten after Deep Space Nine went off the air. Of course, I think his character appeared in Encounter at Farpoint, the series premiere of Next Generation. So having him appear in the last season makes a whole lot of sense. And of course, he has ties to Worf and Deep Space Nine. So Miles O'Brien would be another good one. And again, if we're just talking about dream crazy cameos, I'd love to see Jonathan Archer. I don't know how they would do it. Scott Bakula, somebody asked Scott Bakula this past week if he'd like to reappear as a character, and he said he'd love to. He thought they had a lot of gas in their tank, even though they didn't get the full 7 seasons like they were promised. But let me know, who is your dream cameo appearance for the third season of Picard. If I had to pick one, it would be Sisko. If I had to pick one that could probably happen, it would be O'Brien. I think that we might see Miles O'Brien. Colm Meaney, I think that's how you pronounce his name. The actor who plays him is still a working actor, as far as I know. So we could see him, just in a quick scene, on a view screen or something like that. But it'd be nice to get one more surprise. But let me know, who would be your dream cameo appearance in the third season of Picard. All right, so now we're going to talk about another sci-fi property, and this one will be brand new in 2023, and that is Rebel Moon. This past week, Netflix released an advert that had scenes from many of their original releases for 2023. I don't remember all of them. I can leave a link to it in the description if you want to check it out. But it ended showing the first scenes from this movie, Rebel Moon. So in case you have no idea what Rebel Moon is, Rebel Moon was originally a pitch by Zack Snyder to Lucasfilm about a new Star Wars movie that would be set after the prequel trilogy, that was designed to be a more mature look at the Star Wars universe. I believe it went into pre-production. I don't know if anybody was cast, but I know they were working on the script. And then it was canceled after Disney purchased Lucasfilm. Now, it's funny because I believe that some ideas from that film have been used in future Star Wars projects, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But anyway, so Zack Snyder started with this movie. He thought he was going to get made, and then it got squashed after the Disney purchase. So then he reworked it and sold it, and now it's brand new as its own thing. And it's so vast and big that originally it was given it was going to be one movie. While it was filming, it got a sequel that was filmed back to back. So originally it was going to be one film, and instead they filmed 2 films back to back. They're going to be released at different times. The scenes in the teaser look really cool. There's a big spaceship lifting off the ground that looks kind of like a Star Destroyer. There's not a lot known about the plot. The cast is really cool. Sophia Botella is, I think, the main. She was in Star Trek Beyond as Jaina. It's very much inspired by the works of Akira Kurosawa. If you know who that is, he's a Japanese filmmaker who's influenced many American filmmakers like Quentin Tarantino and many others, specifically like movies like The Magnificent Seven, A Fistful of Dollars. A lot of the old Westerns were inspired by his works. And also, I think now the series The Mandalorian, it's very inspired by Akira Kurosawa, and that's why I think that certain parts of The Mandalorian were inspired by the pitch for Rebel Moon. So if you like The Mandalorian, you're probably gonna like Rebel Moon. Charlie Hunnam will also be starring in the movie. He appeared as Jax in Sons of Anarchy, and he's been in a lot of movies too. Pacific Rim comes to mind, but I'm not sure if he's going to be a good guy or bad guy. Ray Fisher is also in it. He was Cyborg in Zack Snyder's Justice League. He plays a character named Blood Axe, so he's probably pretty cool. Carrie Elways from like Princess Bride and like Saw, he's going to be in it. Anthony Hopkins voices a droid. And then Ed Skrein is going to play the main villain. He was the bad guy in the Deadpool movie also. They're pushing a lot of money behind this. They're trying to flesh it out into its own big universe like Star Wars and Star Trek. They're going to make prequels and sequels and stuff like that. They're going to make, they're going to do the toys and comic books, and it's really going to be big. So you might not know about it now. Plan to hear more about it throughout the year. When I hear news about it, I'll report it on this channel because I'm really looking forward to it. I think that Zack Snyder has done a lot of good things. Really, the Justice League movies are probably, or the DC movies that he's done are probably the movies that I like the least. I love Dawn of the Dead. It's still one of my favorite zombie movies. I love The Watchmen. I know a lot of people don't. They say it's different from the comics, whatever. But I love The Watchmen. I think that if you like the series The Boys, The Watchmen walked so the boys could run. I mean, you would not have The Boys without The Watchmen. So I'm really looking forward to this. Zack Snyder is putting a lot into it. Charlie Hunnam, Ray Fisher, Carrie Elways, Anthony Hopkins. I like all those actors a lot. And Netflix is just super popular right now. They're throwing a lot of money behind these things. They already threw a lot of money behind Zack Snyder for his zombie film, Army of the Dead, and then they gave him a prequel to that too. So they're really, backing Zack Snyder a lot, which I think is a good idea because I think he's a very talented filmmaker. So we'll see. Let me know if you know anything about Rebel Moon. Are you excited for it? Will you be watching it? And are you a fan of Zack Snyder? Keeping with Netflix, a Netflix series that is ending after its upcoming season is Cobra Kai. This is a series that I really have enjoyed since the first season. It actually started out on YouTube. The first 2 seasons, I believe, were released on YouTube, and the next 4 will be released. The next 3 were released on Netflix, and the upcoming will be as well. The 3 creators of Cobra Kai released a joint statement / letter to the fans where they expressed their gratitude. They stated that it was ending after the 6th season, and it's where they want it to end. So it's kind of ending on their terms. But they are hopeful for future projects. The 2 kind of rumors about what those future projects could be. If you do watch Cobra Kai, you know that last season, Daniel's son started to be interested in karate. Most of the series followed his daughter when it wasn't following him and Johnny Lawrence. But now it seems that there's another generation led by his son that is starting to get into karate. So a new series could be created following, that character. Or there's been rumors about a movie coming out. Now, some of these rumors are kind of crazy. Like, I know at one time I heard that there was a movie that wasn't going to be connected to Cobra Kai, the series, which I think would be really, I don't know why you would do that since Cobra Kai is so popular, why you would just, take the IP and just create something new, basically like the Jackie Chan Karate Kid movie that basically no one saw. So we could see a movie, we could see a new series in the future. But, at Netflix is really weird because they don't really give their popular series a lot of seasons. I don't know if it's their way of cutting costs because everybody knows that, after season 3, actors get a bump. And I believe after season 5, they get another one. So if you look at Netflix, like even their most popular series, like Ozark only got 4 seasons. Stranger Things is ending after its upcoming 5th season. So the fact that Cobra Kai got 6 seasons is actually a testament to how popular the series is. And technically, they only got 4 seasons on Netflix, so it kind of falls in line with the rest of Netflix's popular series. But as I said, Cobra Kai is one of my favorite series on right now. I think it's so successful by combining the nostalgia of the original film series and making it familiar, but still creating a fresh plot line that feels like a true continuation of these characters' lives, But then, you get these new characters too, and it still feels legit. It still feels like all these characters live in the same world. And, the actors, I think, do a great job. William Zabka is just perfect as Johnny Lawrence. He only got one movie. He was only really in the first Karate Kid. He's in the beginning of the second one, but he is just this series. I mean, I think that there's no way Cobra Kai is as popular as it is without William Zabka. In the first season, it's just really amazing. He really does drama really well. I mean, he's really down on his luck in the first season, so it's a very self-deprecating character. But just every season, he seems to really bring it, and he's just perfect as Johnny Lawrence. I don't know if he's just that character for real, like if it's just one of those situations where like you don't know where the actor ends and the character begins. But I just love him in that role, and he makes me a fan of Cobra Kai. They've brought back, Martin Kove and Thomas Ian Griffith as villains, and again, they just nail it. They really gave John Kreese a bigger backstory, and again, it just feels really, it just feels right. It feels like it fits right in with the other characters, and Thomas Ian Griffith returning in this last season, I thought was awesome, and I love them together, and then I love them as enemies, him and John Kreese. So I don't think I think that Kreese could come back, but I don't know that Terry Silver will come back. It seemed like he was pretty done after the last season. Spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen a series that's been out for a couple months now. And also bringing back, Sean Cannon as Mike Barnes and Yuji Okamoto as Chosen, and showing how those characters have developed. I mean, it was just so fun. It's like every season is like going back to another high school reunion, where you see, kids that or friends that you didn't see at the last high school reunion, something like that. And then the new cast, I'm probably going to butcher this kid's name. I apologize, but I believe it's Sholo Mariduena, who plays Miguel. He's awesome. Usually I don't like younger actors in these shows. I think the CW has ruined me on a lot of that, but he is amazing as Miguel. That character's had a lot of ups and downs. He's been a good guy, a bad guy, and he's really believable in all those roles. I know that he is going to be a starring role in an upcoming DC film about the Blue Beetle. I'm really looking forward to that. So, he's great. And then the character of Amanda LaRusso, Daniel's wife, I actually think is more entertaining to watch than Daniel. Their chemistry together, and it's just them bringing on new characters again that feel like legit to this universe, but really bring something new, make it fresh. And every season they've done a good job of that, making it fresh. Redoing a story from the '80s and making it fresh in 2023. That's something, because not a lot of stuff translates. I did a few videos on it. I'll do more once we get closer to when it's going to release. We don't have a release date yet, but traditionally they release towards the end of the year. So I'm guessing it will be in December of 2023. We will see the final season of Cobra Kai. But let me know in the comments, do you watch Cobra Kai? Did you watch the original Karate Kid movies? How do you feel about them? And how do you feel Cobra Kai, pays homage to that film series? So back to the world of science fiction, The Mandalorian had a new trailer drop for the third season this last week. I'll put a link to it in the description if you haven't checked it out. This trailer actually leaked online a few months ago. When I was watching it, I was like, why does this look familiar? And then I remembered that it leaked. So some of you, this trailer wasn't new. To some of you, it was. I think it looks really good. I think The Mandalorian is a show that not everybody feels the same way about. Some people love it. I love it. Some people don't. To each their own, I guess. One thing that people don't like, and I think may be kind of a good critique, going into the third season, what if you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett? So if you did watch all those, you know that The Mandalorian was in the Book of Boba Fett and had a significant plot line in that first season. And he is in a different place now than he was at the end of the second season of The Mandalorian. So if you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett and just, tune in for the first episode of this third season of Mandalorian, you might not know what the heck is going on. So I wonder how they're gonna handle that. If they're just gonna assume that everybody watched the Book of Boba Fett, I think that's probably a safe assumption. Although a lot less people like the Book of Boba Fett than they do the Mandalorian. I tend to be somebody that likes both. I do like the Mandalorian more, but I like both. In the trailer, to me, what I picked up on is that both Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, and Grogu look a lot more confident with the use of. Well, I think with Grogu, it's the use of his Jedi powers, and with Din Djarin, I think he's starting to settle into a position as a leader. We've seen in the first 2 seasons that really he just wants to be a voice in the crowd. He doesn't want, any attention on himself, but I think he's starting to decide on a bigger purpose. And it may not be for him. The series is The Mandalorian, and we assume that the Mandalorian that we are following is Din Djarin, but there's been a theory online, I think this has started over a year ago, that Grogu is actually the true Mandalorian that we have been watching. Now, what does that mean? So Grogu initially was supposed to be a Jedi. In the end of the second season, Luke Skywalker picked him up, and they were going to go to Jedi training. But in the Book of Boba Fett, Grogu decided not to continue his training, to leave the Jedi, and to instead go back with Din Djarin. So this third season of The Mandalorian could be Grogu starting to train not as a Jedi, but as a Mandalorian. It looks like Din Djarin is trying to go back to Mandalore to, he took off his helmet, so now he has to go back to Mandalore and perform some kind of ritual. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we do see in the trailer that there are a lot of Mandalorians in this season. I wouldn't be surprised if he's trying to get them to, get together again as a single people instead of this diaspora that, just exists out in the galaxy, but doesn't really have a home. And he makes some kind of comment to that in the trailer about how, they exist, like stars in the galaxy, but they don't really have any place to call their home. So we could see that in this upcoming season, that Din Djarin is trying to rally the Mandalorians. But I do believe that Grogu will be the Mandalorian that this series is about. The first Mandalorian was actually a Jedi. He was the one that wielded the dark saber, which is the sword that Moff Gideon began the series with, but now is in the hands of Din Djarin. Like I said, I believe that we will eventually see Grogu become a Mandalorian, and that this series has really been all about his progression into that role. Another really interesting scene from that trailer was you can see at least 4 Jedi behind a sealed door and somebody cutting through it. The way that somebody's cutting through it, it reminded me of Qui-Gon Jinn using his lightsaber to cut through the door in The Phantom Menace. I think that scene in the trailer is showing Grogu's point of view from him being rescued from the Jedi Temple during Order 66. And that person coming through the door is likely Anakin Skywalker. Now, we just did see Anakin Skywalker return in Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Hayden Christensen. This could be another chance for him to return as that character. If you don't remember the prequel movies, one of the first things Anakin Skywalker did as Darth Vader after he went to the dark side was go to the Jedi Temple and eliminate all the Padawans. Somehow Grogu, who was a Padawan at that time, was able to escape that assault, and it's never been revealed how that happened. So that could be a very pivotal scene that we see this season. I mean, I believe that that's what we see in the trailer. So that's something to look forward to in this. Like I said, I think this season will be crazy. Again, in the second season, we saw a de-aged Mark Hamill return as Luke Skywalker in a crazy cameo. I think the crazy cameo this year will be Hayden Christensen returning as Anakin Skywalker, and us seeing more of Order 66 from Grogu's point of view. The first episode of Season 3 of The Mandalorian will be released on March 1st of 2023. So let me know, are you a fan of The Mandalorian still? Are you excited for the third season? How do you think the show will end? Will it end with Grogu as the Mandalorian, like I said, or do you think the show really is about Din Djarin and him getting the Mandalorians back together? The reason I don't think that that's the case is because remember we saw 3 more movies after this time period, and the Mandalorians are never really mentioned. I don't believe they're in the final battle either. So if the Mandalorians really took back Mandalore and were a thriving people again, you would think you would have heard about them in those 3 movies, and we don't. So we'll see. And now finally, I want to talk about the first episode of The Last of Us. I spoke about this on my podcast last week. I also released a couple of videos throughout the week about it. One was a breakdown of the first episode. The next was a breakdown of the cordyceps virus and how it is different from the games. You should definitely check those out. But I loved the first episode of The Last of Us. I was very hyped for this, and when you are very hyped for something, it is very easy to get let down. But I really think it hit on all cylinders. I think the actors did a great job in their roles. You know, I talked about in my video last week about how in the original game, I thought the breakout scene was one of my favorites of any kind of zombie style breakout that I've ever seen before. And in live action, I think it nailed it. It even added a couple of things like the plane crashing on Main Street. I don't believe that was in the game. You know, definitely pulled at your heartstrings. It made you feel for these characters. The one thing I will say about the first episode is it went through a lot. A couple of big events from the game happened in just the first episode. So it makes me think that the first season will just be the first game. I don't know if the second season of The Last of Us has been greenlit yet. I'm guessing it will. I mean, the debut episode was the second largest debut ever on HBO after the debut of the series House of Dragon. But you remember, House of the Dragon is a spin-off of a very successful HBO series, Game of Thrones. The Last of Us is more of an original property. Of course, it was a game first, but still, I think that, you know, The Last of Us being that popular is a little more of a surprise because it didn't already have a built-in audience on the channel like House of the Dragon did. But if the first season shows all of the first game, I mean, I guess the second season will show the second game, and then what do you have after that? There's only 2 games. I mean, there's downloadable content for the games, but those have also been, that story has been built in already to the first season as well. So I don't know what the plan is there. I don't know if maybe, I believe that there's a time jump between the first game and the second game. So maybe they'll show seasons of, you know, stuff that we didn't see between the first and second game. The second season is, or the second game is a lot different than the first game. I won't go into any spoilers for those of you that haven't played it, but it will be a shift if they do go that route. So that's one thing that's the first thing that really came to my head after watching the first episode. Besides, wow, this is a really good series. Is wow, they really showed a lot in that first episode. How are they're going to do 10 episodes this season? How are they going to, you know, stretch this out for multiple seasons if they go through the first game in 10 episodes? But again, I did 2 videos about that first episode. One that is a specific breakdown, so that's why I'm not going to get into too much of the first episode here. If you want to watch those videos and you're a fan of The Last of Us, I highly suggest you watch them, and I will link them in the description below. But like I said, I really enjoyed the first episode. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it, if you played the game, and are you a fan of the games? What do you think about the second season doing the second game? I know that if that's the case, there will be a lot of people talking about that. Well, that's all I have this time for WDIM News, but thank you very much for watching this episode. Again, the best way to support me is to hit the like button right now, make sure that you're subscribed, and that you have hit the bell so you know right when my videos come out. I will be releasing a new episode of WDIM News every week on Mondays, so let me know in the comments what you think of these podcasts. Also, let me know if there are any topics that I missed that you would like me to talk about, and if I do mention it on a future podcast, I will mention your comment in the video. Thanks very much for watching me, and I'll see you next time on What Did I Miss?